Good morning and welcome everybody to the Suburban Ford 7 Sports Cave. Tom Lydon in for Brad Galley this week. Happy that you are with us. Another snowy day here in Michigan, but we've got plenty to chew on. You know, you think about a down month in sports, and sometimes people point to February, but that's not the case. We've got a lot of topics to chew on. Happy to be joined by Mike Stone from 97.1 The Ticket and John Neo from the Detroit News. Plenty of opinions to come from these guys over the course of the hour. And of course, we're counting on you to share your opinions with us as well. Send us your thoughts on Twitter using the hashtag 7SportsCave. If I could come to work dressed like this every day,
I know.
I'd work until I was 75 years old. This is fantastic.
This is fancy for me, though.
Yeah, no, same
As
here,
opposed
same
to the
here.
radio is just, you know, who cares?
Plenty of topics to hit on, and let's hop right into some of the hottest topics. I think top of mind for most Detroit sports fans this week is what we've seen transpire in Sochi with Henrik Zetterberg. And the concern going in was that the NHL sending their players might backfire, so to speak, no pun intended in this regard. But when you see what happened to Henrik, what jumps out of you as your first reaction?
Why is he there? Look, I understand these guys, especially him and Datsyuk, captains of their country. They want to play, and it's great hockey, as we saw yesterday. But to me, if there's a guy who is nursing injuries like these guys were, you got to send them home. I know it's a little different culture. They care about the motherland. Who's signing the paychecks? Mr. Illich, not Mr. Putin. Well, who knows?
And that's why the owners want no part of this whole Olympics experiment. But you know, Henrik Zetterberg's had a bad back for years now. We know it, and it's flared up this year. He's missed, you know, time in December. He barely came back in time for the Winter Classic, etc. But what are they thinking? I mean, of course he knows. Cross Atlantic flight and you know, those accommodations in Sochi, et cetera, et cetera. You know it's going to flare.
He scores a goal in their first game.
And then he says it's 20 times worse.
Yeah,
that's the frightening part. You're thinking surgery now.
There's a good chance he might not play the whole season.
Right.
And without him, I don't think they make the playoffs. And Datsyuk.
And the difference is, everybody talked about, well, Yzerman did it in 2002.
Right.
Well, there's a difference. They were light years better than any other team. They didn't have to worry about making the playoffs. And so Yzerman came back and he sat out until the playoffs. And he also wasn't, you know, it wasn't the same team. That was arguably the greatest team ever.
And Datsyuk's another case. I mean, he played the 2 games before the Olympics, and basically he was going in the motions because he was afraid. His first game in the Olympics was not very good.
No, he looked like a guy who was playing on a bum knee.
Right, he played good yesterday, in that game. But other than that, he hasn't done much either. And you know, that leaves it a whole different thing about whether the Wings are going to make the playoffs or not.
You know, talking to Pavel Datsyuk, as I did right before he left, we've known him, obviously, I've been here 10 years. I've known him all that time. But you've never really gotten to know him all that well. And you wish you could because you like his sense of humor and you know that he's a pretty fun guy to be around. He was in a state of mind that I'd never seen. And he admitted the pressure and knew that there was going to be so much of a spotlight on him and on his team. And they've struggled, man. Yeah. The game yesterday didn't go over well in the homeland. Yeah. Today, they barely got through in a shootout, and now they're going to have to play again, it looks like, just to get to the medal round, play an elimination game on Tuesday.
And they haven't won anything in a long time. And so that's just only adds to the pressure of home ice and the pressure of not having won. And everybody says if they could just win 1 gold medal in the Olympics, they'd be fine with that.
Right.
I don't think they're going to win that.
And I read where Slava Fetisov just ripped the team, saying they're a bunch of individuals. They're not a team.
Thanks, Papa Bear.
Yeah, exactly. Now, they kind of got hosed a little bit yesterday.
Jonathan Quick with a little nudge of the goal.
Absolutely. But you know what? Those are the breaks.
Does this affect Zetterberg's legacy at all? If this proves to be an injury that knocks him out of this season, what sort of effect might it have on this season, and what might people think of Zetterberg for doing what he did and going there and playing?
No, I don't think it. I would say no on the legacy question. I do think it's a concern for the rest of his career.
Yeah,
because I think a lot of us have always wondered, well, is he really going to have that Yzerman, extended run with a bad back that's, you never know how it's going to, and at the end of his career is going to be cut short maybe 2 or 3 years. And if it's surgery, that's huge.
Yeah, and if he can't be the same Henrik Zetterberg, that number 40 probably won't be up on the rafters of the new arena, whatever it's going to be called.
Your thoughts, of course, we're interested in hearing on the 7 Sports Cave. Use the hashtag there on Twitter. We're going to switch topics now, shift to what was on top of mind with everybody in the middle of this week. Lions make the moves, which many of us expected them to make. But still, when you see 2 guys who you've seen in that locker room for 5 years and 4 years, in Nate's case, hit the road, it's a little stunning, but now they've got some money to play with. What do you think they're going to do?
Well, Nate, obviously everybody loves Nate, but you know what? It was time. And Delmas, to me, I'm sorry, probably the most overrated player they've had in the last 5-6 years.
Yeah, no, he was a guy. He's a good downhill run stopper.
Right.
But for every play he made in
missed.
that way, he missed one. You always hear coaches talking about stay in your lanes. He never stayed in his lane. He never stayed in his lane. I don't know how he drives, but he never stayed in his lane on the field. But
you might drive better than Burleson.
But I will say this: the room got a lot quieter. The room got a lot quieter on Wednesday.
But do you want a risky guy like Delmas on your team? I think if Delmas didn't get paid as much as he got paid, that's a guy that you want to have on the team.
And that may still happen. Because really all they're doing is what they did last year, which is say,
but do you really,
look, we're not going to pay you a ton of money. If you can't find something else better, well,
do you really want a guy, though, to come back and not practice every week because he's got injury problems? And if he's going to play, he played okay.
Right. No, and that was the issue. And you saw it towards the end of the season where I thought he started well. And then, you can't not practice every week and have any sort of communication going on there on the field. Glover Quinn allows them a chance now to go get a younger guy to take that spot. Or maybe, I would guess, actually, one of the guys from the Ravens, whose name I can never pronounce, Ihedegbo or whatever, is maybe the guy who would come back with Terrell Austin, his old coach, and come in and maybe fill that role.
Sticking with football, this mess with Richie Incognito and Jonathan Martin,
that's putting it lightly,
and Mike Pouncey is stunning. My first reaction is, how does this help Jonathan Martin at all? Because you're talking about a guy who's already admitted that he's traumatized, and now you're going to put all these text messages and all these emails and everything else out for the public to see. I seriously worry about the kid based on the fact that, the private nature of this was bothering him already, and now it's public.
Well, yeah, but you know what? Jonathan Martin's, he can't be absolved of everything. You read some of the tweets he went back and forth and all the texts. I mean, now whether he was just trying to play along, who knows?
I think it's, we all talk about bullying in different areas of life. That's, you try to find ways to cope with it, and one way is to sort of placate to play along. I think there was certainly an element of that going on there. But yeah, I mean, everybody talks about, will Incognito ever play Jonathan Martin ever play? I mean, we're talking about some other guys, and we'll talk about one here in a little bit. Who's who's gonna draft him? Well, who's gonna sign Jonathan Martin? I'm sure there will be somebody out there.
Who's got a better chance of getting the next job, Jonathan Martin or
Jonathan Martin?
Incognito?
Yeah, Jonathan Martin, I would say for sure.
Except that, look, I take the Lions out of it because their offensive line is pretty good. But if you need a player, okay, granted he is what he is as far as a jerk in Incognito, he did make the Pro Bowl 1 year, correct?
Yeah, 1 year.
Okay, he is a pretty good player, and it's all about wins and losses, right?
Yeah, but there's a lot of offensive linemen I think you can plug in and save yourself. People are worried about distractions.
Yeah.
That's the ultimate distraction, whoever's going to sign him.
Well, it's a different type of distraction, but I think Riley Cooper did pretty well for Philadelphia this year.
Yeah, that was one. This goes way beyond the pale.
2 minutes after you guys went off the air last week, John.
I know. They almost called us back.
Pistons decided to fire Mo Cheeks. Your thoughts on that and the fact that this team is now in a position where do they make a run for the playoffs and hurt their chances of getting that #1 pick? Do they tank, which obviously no one wants to say, but a lot of fans want them to do? Right. Where do you sit on the fence with this topic?
Well, I don't sit on the fence with it. I think the fact that
Stoney's not on the fence?
No, that was years ago. I think what the Pistons should do is just trade or try to trade every person with the exception of Andre Drummond, basically, and try to get better for the future and forget about this season. I know you want to make the playoffs because you haven't made it in such a long time. You don't go into games trying to lose, but you construct a roster where it might be hard to win.
Well, it's too late for that, though. They're not going to be able to trade these guys. They can trade an expiring contract, and they may be able to trade Rodney Stuckey, and that might be enough to torpedo. Sad as that is to say, that might torpedo their season by trading Rodney Stuckey. We never would have said that.
Well, hold on.
Will they be able to get anything from Monroe or no?
I don't think.
They want to keep him, though.
They want to keep him.
And they want to pay him close to the max.
I don't think they want to play him close to the max, but they know they're
He's
probably.
not a max player.
I know. But the problem is, I don't think there's going to be any big trades, really. The NBA trade deadline is a big waste of time in the end. But
the whole thing with the Pistons, look, Cheeks did a horrible job.
He was not the right coach for this team, but we've said that how many times now?
But wait, stop right there. We've talked about the Pistons for 2 minutes. Let's talk about Joe.
Yeah.
I mean, at what point do we talk about Joe, and where does he become accountable?
That's what
you knew going into this season. He's a lame duck GM. He's on an expiring contract too. You knew this was doomed to fail in that sense already.
But so Gores, if he's going to make this big power play, I'm an owner who's been here 3 times or whatever at the game, and he's the one who basically fired Cheeks, not Joe.
Not basically, he did.
Then make the big play and fire Joe too.
Because you're talking about making trades. Who's making the trades now? This is what I wrote after the game on Monday night.
Nobody's making the trades.
Nobody's making the trades. You think Joe Dumars right now is sitting there, working till all hours of the night to make a deal that'll make the team bet. You know,
the day that all the players talked about it, I was really bothered that Joe didn't talk. I mean, Joe's been around this town long enough to know that he needs to step up and answer some questions. And he still hasn't talked yet, and that bothers me.
Sit there and say, look.
It bothers me that the owner hasn't talked, though. The owner is the one who made this call, and the
owner
was
not here.
The owner could have fired him while he was in town. First of all,
of course he could have.
Ducks out of town, and then has come on.
Well, you answered one of the questions that came in on social media from Evan. And do you think the Pistons will make any moves before the trade deadline?
I think they could. But it just won't be a block.
I hope so.
We're going to get to more of that. We're going to take a break, step aside for a quick minute. When we come back, we're going to get into some of your comments that we're getting on Twitter. Use the hashtag 7SportsCave. Don't forget, we also got 2 big college basketball games today. Michigan plays Wisconsin. Michigan State, well, not so big.
Yeah,
they play Nebraska. So we got 1 big college basketball game today. Stay with us. The Sports Cave continues right after this. Welcome back to the Suburban Ford 7 Sports Cave. Glad you could join us. You can see we got plenty of room for more stuff. If you've got some good things hanging out in your man cave or want to send anything our way, we can get it up on the wall for you. Tom Lydon with you this week along with Mike Stone and John Neo. Brad Galley will join us from Lakeland live in just a bit. He also caught up with Tigers manager Brad Ausmus yesterday, so we will share that interview with you just after 11:30. But now time to introduce the 4th member of our team. Mike Foss is our producer. He's in the control room, and Mike's the one who's kind of overseeing all our social media interaction. And what do you got for us so far, Mike?
Well, Tom, we already got some tweets rolling in, people using the hashtag 7SportsCave. Some Pistons and Red Wings reactions so far. Troy Davis expressing the thoughts of quite a few Pistons fans. Pistons are a dumpster fire, terrible team. Also with some Red Wings reaction here, Cameron saying, for Stoney specifically, saying that he spoke a bit about it this week, but believing trading Datsuk for a younger player would be good. Guys, your thoughts?
Would be good, but I don't think they'll ever do it.
Yeah.
You don't trade him. But that's a problem in sports. Sometimes we're so loyal. We keep guys. I mean, you can go back to Trammell and Whitaker.
Right.
We keep guys so long around here because we love the fact that they play for one team. Yeah, if you could get 2 great young players for Pavel Datsuk, if this team you don't think is going to make the playoffs, by all means do it.
Yeah, no, they're not.
But they wouldn't do it.
No, they wouldn't do it. And really, I don't know. I mean, that doesn't sound like a good idea to me.
Well, who knows when he's going to go and decide to leave and play in the KHL, too.
Yeah, we were worried about. I think that was just that lost in translation kind of negotiations.
Let me throw this out there, though. You got an acrimonious relationship between Babcock and Datsuk, I think. They get along, they work with each other, but I'm not necessarily sure that those guys are the greatest of friends. I think Mike runs the locker room a certain way.
Who is he the greatest friend?
Yeah, no,
I understand that. But I think Mike saved his job by the way he coached this team at the end of last year, proved that he can work with the young guys. So where a year ago I was saying this is Babcock's last stand, I think he stepped up and he's shown what he can do. And he's certainly been dealt a bad hand this year. But I guess the choice is made. Are we here with Babcock long term? Is he our guy? Or do we take the risk that is Pavel ever going to be 100%, and will he be able to play, or will this injury be a consistently nagging thing?
Yeah. Well, I think they're going to. I think they would keep him, and I don't think it's going to be a nagging thing. However, sometimes, like I said, you have to look forward. And Datsuk is one of the 3 best hockey players in the world. I do understand. So trading him makes.
And he's a guy that I do think can play many more years.
If you think he can, then you keep him. But it depends who you can get. Obviously, you're not going to trade him for draft choices. No.
But are you worried about him calling it quits like Kovalchuk did and said, "I'm going to go play back in the motherland"?
Yes, I am.
No, I'm not. I'm not as much. No, and especially if he doesn't win a gold medal.
He'll be hiding here. He may never go back.
Exactly.
Hey, let's hop into a little bit. Big game for Michigan. I've been incredibly impressed by what the Michigan basketball team's been able to do this winter. No one could have possibly expected with their 3 best players from last year on the shelf, them doing what they've done. They're tied for first place. They got Wisconsin coming to town, a team that's always been that little medley Wisconsin team.
Can't stand
right?
Wisconsin.
Who likes Wisconsin?
Oh, Ryan, he's Dracula.
You just don't like the way Wisconsin plays basketball. But what's your take on where Michigan is and how important this week is? And of course, a week from now, we're going to be talking Michigan State.
It's a huge game for Michigan today, and they have definitely done much better than anybody thought they would do. They still have some problems on that team. If Stauskas can't get his shot going, who does? But I will say this: Derek Walton Jr. is amazing.
He's been a real surprise to me, and the biggest reason maybe that they're where they didn't we didn't think they were going to be.
Like, I don't expect them to make a long tournament.
But where's Glenn Robinson? That's the question.
Oh, yeah.
And that's going to be the question for me this last month heading into the tournament.
He's not going,
is he going to catch fire and really carry the load in a lot of ways.
He doesn't just disappear from segments of games. He
for the
disappears from
entire
games.
and that's concerning.
And
yeah.
I don't think they have to worry about him leaving early.
I don't know. Maybe that's the issue. Maybe that's where his head's at. I have no idea. But he's really been
bad.
a mystery.
He's
to me.
been bad.
Yeah.
Michigan and Wisconsin today at Chrysler Center should be a good matchup. Now, we'll get into maybe a little bit Michigan State and Nebraska. That's a game they should win. I don't think there's much concern there.
Nebraska
I've been
has a
impressed
basketball team?
with them, too, because Michigan State's doing it with a short hand. On the other side of the break, we're going to check in with our buddy Jeremy Johnson. If you haven't seen his packages here, we're going to do David's package next first. Thanks. That's why Mike Foss is running the show back in the control
You're getting
room.
people's packages mixed.
What I wanted to talk about is we talked about Nick Stauskas and the fact that he's got his own little fan club, and there's two guys who are going to be front and center with their trademark waving proudly. David Solano was in Ann Arbor recently, and he has their story.
You've probably seen it inside of Chrysler Center. The maize and blue Canadian flag made exclusively for Nick Stauskas. James Giardina and Nate James are the creators.
So I'm not from Toronto, nor am I from Canada, but both James and I just love Nick Stauskas. We like to think that if the few times we don't bring it or we forget to put it up on free throws, he misses, we take the blame. It's our fault, but we think it helps him. We think he likes it. Every single commentator that I hear on TV has to give a little 10-second spiel about Nick Stauskas and the maize and blue Canadian flag. A couple weeks ago when Stauskas and his family, they got, what was it, like 60 people or something? They got a whole busload of people came down and they all had shirts with the flag on it.
So who takes over the game day duties once Giardina and James graduate?
Well, I got one more year, but I'm guessing after I'm gone we'll find a worthy candidate who appreciates the Canadian heritage here at Michigan Athletics. And there's always going to be Canadian players on the hockey team, so they'll have somewhere to take it.
In Ann Arbor, David Solano for the 7 Sports Cave.
Thanks, David. This is what you get when you work without a script. It says it right here, too. It says, do social media, toss to David, then tease Jeremy. I went from point A to point C. It happens. What can you do? So now I'm going to go to point C. On the other side of the break, Jeremy Johnson will join us, and he has done a great job going out on the street and talking to the people. He's talking Olympics this week, and of course, did it in a very creative fashion. Stay with us. The Suburban Ford 7 Sports Cave continues right after this. Welcome back to the Suburban Ford 7 Sports Cave. Like most of you, I have been watching the Olympics for my every 4 years fix of luge and skeleton and figure skating drama. I got to admit, I'm a sucker for the pageantry and the national pride, and I know that I'm not alone. We wanted to hear from you, though, your thoughts on the Olympics. So we put our man Jeremy Johnson on the case. It's this week's edition of Jeremy with the People.
Well, today we're in downtown Detroit asking people some pretty unique questions about the Winter Olympics, and hopefully I'll run into an Olympian along the way. So let's get going. Where are the Olympics held this year?
Sochi.
Well, I don't know if it's Sochi or Sochi or.
Can you say Sochi 3 times real fast?
Sochi, Sochi, Sochi. Sochi, Sochi, Sochi.
What's hotter, the Olympic torch or Taylor Swift's dance moves?
Definitely the torch.
The Olympic torch or Jessica Biel?
Jessica Biel.
It's the 2014 Superhero Olympics, and it's time for the relay race. What 4 superheroes are in your relay race?
Flash, Iron Man,
Superman.
Klaus from the Vampire Diaries.
We just made our way down to campus marshes, and I think I spotted one of the Olympians. Oh my God, right there. Hey, come and talk to us. How was Sochi?
Huh? Let the Office Olympics begin.
What was going on here?
This is our Office Olympics. Speed skate 1 lap.
Talk to me about your lap.
It wasn't very good. I lost a little time on the fall, so I made it up on the end with the head first dive in the home.
Yeah! On your mark, get set, go! In first place, we have Paul from Primetime with a time of 12.
Why isn't sun tanning a part of the Winter Olympics?
Because it's not a sport.
Actually, because the best you can do is a bronze. From downtown Detroit, Jeremy Johnson, 7 Sports Cave.
Thanks, Jeremy. As always, artfully done. We got to share with you some of the prank videos this guy has done. He set up cameras around the newsroom, and people didn't know that they were there. And we'll share one of those with you in the.
His Valentine's Day thing was great last week. I think he got some couples probably in trouble already.
Set them loose. See what you get. That's my philosophy.
That looked like the U.S. Beats getting team too, by the way.
But that guy was a ringer. All right, Black History Month means a lot here in Detroit. To celebrate Black History Month, we're actually airing a special documentary today at 12:30. It's produced by our friends at the State Champs Network. It's called Lift As You Climb, and one feature focuses on the efforts of 3 Detroiters who've built an uplifting program called Run This Town. Here's a sneak peek.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Detroit is known as the chocolate city, but we have people of all different ethnic backgrounds come out, and this is great because there's no color here. It doesn't matter how small or how large you are. You can come here and find a home at Run This Town.
Let's go, team!
People need to be inspired. People need to be assisted. And I'm all about the W.E.B. Du Bois model. So it's all about that talented 10 to have to pick up the 90%. And so if you do not have, I want to give.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
If every day you get up and the only life that gets better is your life, then you're not doing anything at all. So every day I wake up and I want to get someone else's life better. And I think Run This Town helps me to accomplish that.
It's an exciting place to be because every day we come here, someone tells us we've changed their lives.
That's good stuff. 12:30 today right here on 7 Lift As You Climb. When we come back, we're going to go over to the other desk. We're going to do our Fast Five. Don't forget, we have Brad Galley down in Lakeland. We also have Tim Conley from Southfield High School here to talk some high school football, some Malik McDowell. We got cheerleaders. We got a band. Woo! It's just getting started. Let's get to it. Suburban Ford 7 Sports Cave coming your way. Hang tight. Another snowy morning in Detroit, and we are happy that you have joined us. Mike Stone, Tom Lydon, John Neo with you, and it's time for our Fast Five, where each of these guys get about 30 seconds to give their thoughts when the buzzer goes off.
I'm the defending champion.
You didn't compete against this guy, though.
That's true.
But I will give you the honor of going first. Our first topic is this. Are the Lions more or less likely to draft Sammy Watkins with Nate Burleson?
Neither. Is that an acceptable answer?
Oh, no. Look who's on the fence.
No, I think they do need to draft a receiver. I just don't know. This is a deep draft. I don't know that it has to be number 10 or whatever. I'd love to see him trade up. Pull a Patrick Peterson trade that they didn't pull, years ago, and draft and get up to 5, 6, whatever it takes to get Sammy Watkins.
Hey, if he's there at 10, I draft him. But I don't trade up. I can't. This team cannot afford to give up more draft choices. He's really good, but who knows if he's going to be great. If he's there at 10, take him. If not, they need a cornerback, either Gilbert or Darquez Dennard. Please bring Darquez Dennard to Detroit.
A counterpoint? You got 20 seconds.
Counterpoint would be cornerback at number 10. How'd that work for D. Milner? How'd that work for the Jets? Those guys take a long time to develop. I don't think that's the answer. I don't think that's what they're going.
I'm sorry. This team, the defensive backfield is so horrific. They can draft all corners and I'd be happy.
Maybe a little bit more time on our next topic here. Richie Incognito, who we mentioned a couple minutes ago. What would it take for you to add Richie Incognito to your team?
The only way I would add Richie Incognito to my team is if I knew that even with this guy, ridiculous personality, the hashtag you-know-what, a blank that he is, that he would be the missing link. You had an injury on your offensive line, and he would be the guy that could make your offensive line good so you can win a Super Bowl. Other than that, no.
What kind of message does that send to your team if you bring a guy like that into your locker room, knowing what you know already about him? The Dolphins, though, made him a team captain. What does that say about the Dolphins? Why do you think the Dolphins are a team in dysfunction? That's why. And you cannot bring Richie Incognito into your locker room at all.
It's troubling to see the, in essence, two-facedness that we got from him, where he's saying one thing to Jonathan Martin, he's saying another thing.
He thought he was going to be exonerated.
He's bipolar, but you know what? In this league, it's all about winning. And if you think that he could actually help your team win, then you got to take a chance.
Michael Sam comes out last Sunday night and says that he will be the first openly gay player he hopes in the NFL should he get drafted or picked up in free agency. The general managers, many of them anonymously, said that his draft stock dropped. Your take on that, the general manager's reaction to Michael Sam's announcement?
Well, they would know if his draft stock would fall a little bit, but it's ridiculous. If you think this kid can play football and be a great player, you draft them. Same thing, like we mentioned with Incognito. It's all about winning games. Yeah, there are going to be a few guys in the team that are going to sit there and say, I don't want Michael Sam on my team because he's gay. Tough, you know what. There's probably some gay guys on the team right now that some of the players probably even know about anyway. To me, if you think he can help you, absolutely. Now, as far as the Lions, I don't think he fits their scheme because they're going to do a 4-3. He's more of a 3-4 guy. But by all means, draft him if you think he can help.
Yeah, well, and the problem is distractions. That's the argument you're hearing. Distractions. Well, he'd be a distraction. First of all, he's not going to be a distraction. Second of all, if there's anybody who's proven that he's capable of handling distractions, it's him already. And so that's why he's, to me, his stock rises from what he's done. But to say he's going to be a distraction is just ridiculous, and that's the NFL sort of mentality that's taking hold here.
I would like to see an NFL team just commit to the fact that we have an interest in him. If he's there in the 3rd round, we're going to take him.
Right.
You don't see that
that's
with
a strong
any
team.
player.
That's a strong leadership. That's what you need. And
somebody New England, San Francisco,
yeah,
Green
even
Bay.
Seattle, I can see doing it.
We've gone over time, which takes us to our next topic, which is the NBA All-Star Weekend. You talked about it a little bit last week.
Did it happen?
I watched the highlights this morning. That's how little interest I had in it last night. But what would you change about NBA All-Star Weekend to make it better?
I would plunk down $2 million. I don't know. Pick a number. Say, all right, this is what we're playing for. Those guys have all the money in the world, but still, that would make a difference. You put some money down. Maybe you get LeBron. Maybe you get some of those guys in there. Otherwise, I don't think it's worth the time or the effort.
I think what John's saying is correct, actually. You put down $1 million, but instead of slam dunks, instead of three-point contests, instead of doing the stuff with the WNBA player, you have a one-on-one competition. You have the top 8 players. Somebody selects who the 8 players are. $5 million on the line, one-on-one. Here we go. Boom.
Oddly coincidental that LeBron James comes out with a little viral slam dunk video. I don't know if you guys saw that this week.
Yeah.
Interesting that he throws down some dunks the week of the All-Star.
This is what I would have done if I could be there.
If I did participate in the competition, this
the
is what
problem was they had some good dunkers in there last night.
I didn't watch it either, but I mean, I saw the highlights and they had teams. Come on. Teams for a dunk contest?
It is 11:25 on a Sunday morning, so I'd love to be able to show you the Sports Illustrated swimsuit cover, but I really don't feel comfortable doing that. So the question becomes, has Sports Illustrated gone too far this year in how they've presented their Sports Illustrated swimsuit cover?
I just saw it yesterday, and I don't know. It's probably not a whole lot worse than some of the ones they've had in the past, but they had the Barbie doll, the fake Barbie doll cover. That might have been a better bet in terms of something you could sort of show to the masses. But then again, maybe we're just desensitized to it, and that's not a good thing. But I don't know that it still registers the way it did.
No, it doesn't register.
The wow factor.
Right, I agree with that. But, so you have 3 beautiful girls her hands are, if you haven't seen it, her hands are touching each other's bottoms, so to speak. I don't think it's that inappropriate. They've done things that are just as bad inside the magazine, certainly worse than what you've seen there. I think it's okay. And as far as I'm concerned, Nina Agdal, one of the cover ladies, she is special.
Talk about being desensitized.
Yeah.
You didn't even mention that they're topless. Come on, Stoney. I mean, it doesn't bother me either.
You can't see anything.
I'm certainly not going to be holding it up and showing my 7- and 5-year-old daughter.
Well, I'm not showing them my 13-year-olds either, but you know what? It's there.
Let's check back in with Mike Foss. He's back in the control room. Our producer's keeping an eye on the social media. And Mike, have we gotten anything interesting besides the one that asked Stoney if he got a free bowl of soup with that shirt?
What's wrong with this shirt?
That was one of my favorites. I do love a good Caddyshack reference. That's always a fun one. But no, we are getting a good variety of stuff on Twitter. Again, people using the hashtag 7SportsCave. We've got Troy Davis talking Michigan basketball. He says Glenn Robinson only plays well against bad teams. He disappears in big games. Also, Plymouth Jim talking Red Wings. He says Babcock was never in trouble. He would last 1 second on the open market. Holland stocks the roster. And here's kind of a cool one. Daniel, he's a Tigers fan living abroad, living over in Israel. He's actually watching us online over in Israel.
Sweet.
So a whole variety of stuff for you guys.
Very cool. Well, we're going to get to the Tigers. It's amazing that spring training has started, and I guess that's how we stack the show. We're going to talk Tigers a lot after 11:30. It starts with Brad's interview with Brad Ausmus.
But he's right about Babcock thing. If for some reason he left, it would take him
and that may be the thing. Maybe
Right.
Babcock decides to leave.
Right.
He's a free agent.
Do you think he wants to go coach in Canada?
I think he might. There's a big part of him that probably that would.
And as far as, we talked about, Dumars being problem with what's with the Pistons. Lately, Ken Holland has not done a
stocked
great job.
that roster quite as
yes,
the way he
the
should.
Michael Samuelson, Jordan Tutu.
Stocked it with some stale food.
Exactly.
We got
weak.
A lot of good things every week on the Sports Cave. One thing that we'd like to remind you of is our Suburban Ford 7 Sports Cave fan line. That's 248-827-4977. Give us your thoughts via phone. But now our high school play of the week brought to you by the State Champ Sports Network. This is Rachel Brecky. Three-pointer, called it off the glass to win the game. That was Troy beating Rochester Adams 40-38 at the buzzer. That is our State Champ Sports Network high school play of the week. When we come back,
I had Troy giving only one. I lost.
You lost. Back down to Lakeland, Florida. Brad, and then Brad Galley live with us. Stay with us. Thanks for spending part of your morning with us here on the Suburban Ford 7 Sports Cave. Pitchers and catchers report, the words that so many baseball fans love to hear. It is, in a way, a new era of Tigers baseball with a new man calling the shots in the dugout. Brad Galley is in Lakeland with the Tigers. He sat down yesterday one-on-one with Brad Ausmus.
2 days on the job already. I asked Victor Martinez, even though baseball's changing and there are younger managers, is it weird to have a guy that looks like he could be one of you in the clubhouse? He tried to search for an answer. He said, yeah, it's a little weird, but he's our skip, so we gotta respect him. Is it difficult for you making that transition?
You know, I've been in Victor's shoes. There's that point in your career where you start playing against coaches and managers that you played with or played against as a player, and you start to realize, I must have been around a little while. So, and Victor has been around a little while, so I can sympathize.
Being in this clubhouse, being the man in charge, first 2 days reaction?
Well, it's been fun. Well, you know, saying I'm the man in charge is a little misleading because in my mind it's the players' clubhouse. You know, you have the coaching staff and the manager there, and we're all involved, we're all working towards the same thing. But I've always felt like, as a player, and I still feel that way as a manager, that it's the players' clubhouse. And as long as they aren't out of control and there aren't any issues and there's no headbutting going on, it should remain their clubhouse.
When you look at what this team was able to accomplish the past 5, 6, 7, 8 years, there's been a level of consistency built on winning. Jim leaves. A new young manager, a lot of people on the outside say, well, they're trying to change the culture. Do you believe there needs to be a culture change here?
I don't think so, no. Everything I've heard is there doesn't need to be a culture change at all. I mean, the clubhouse atmosphere, the players get along well by all accounts. I don't think that's the case. I just think it was a case where Jim decided that he was done and they needed to replace him with somebody else.
The lineup changes from year to year in every team across the league. Pitching staffs change. The changes here were a little abrupt. They caught people off guard talking about pay cuts and payroll slashing. Do you feel like that's the case when you look up and down in this clubhouse?
No, I mean, we got Miguel Cabrera, Justin Verlander, Victor Martinez, Torrey Hunter. These guys are making pretty good money. I can't complain about the players in this clubhouse at all. You know, who would? I mean, most managers would like to have 2 former Cy Youngs on their staff and 2 MVPs on their team and Gold Gloves, All-Stars. I have no complaints. Hey, just look at the payroll. We can't complain about the payroll. They're clearly not trying to save dollars. They're trying to win baseball games.
When fans do look at things, though, and they see what was here in place last year, what is in place this year, they want to win just like you do. Do you understand maybe their complaints or at least the red flags that are thrown up at first when things don't meet the eye test?
I mean, it happens all the time in every city. It's not just in Detroit. All fans want a winner. That's why they're fans of the team. I've never met a fan of a team that wanted their team to lose. So it's part of the game. And in today's fast food media market, you know, there's a lot of discussion, and you need to fill columns or blogs, and everyone's entitled to their opinion. So, again, I'm not going to complain about it.
When you look at Twitter and Facebook, do you involve yourself at all with social media?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I have teenage daughters, so I have to monitor.
When we posted a picture of you on Valentine's Day, the female interaction on our page jumped through the roof. The ladies love Brad Ausmus. Any in particular stories since you've taken over as manager that have made you jump back?
No, there's been nothing out of the ordinary. Again, I'm flattered, but I hope they still like me in September.
Win some games, that's the key. All right, Brad Galley joins us now live from Lakeland via Skype, and we saw you moving around, giving the old Bono there, Brad. We were worried about this shot. What's going on down there? It looks like players are just checking in today.
They are, yeah. We've got a few new arrivals here. Ian Kinsler just arrived. He said 10 pounds lighter than he's ever been for the opening of spring training. Austin Jackson actually just came in. They're working through some aesthetics workouts Now they're hitting the field, so I'm going to move with me. Stay with me here.
Oh, boy.
This field behind me is where all the hitters that are coming early to camp are going to work out and begin hitting for the first time today. Andy Dirks is here. Jose Iglesias reported today. Miguel Cabrera was here a couple days ago. So the feel and the vibe of this camp so far, a player's camp. You heard Ausmus say it there a few times. The players are going to run this. He's taking more of a back seat, and that's kind of a smart position, I think. A lot of people would agree, because Jim Leland was kind of along the same lines. There are so many superstars here, and he's kind of going in line with that thought of letting these guys run the ship around here, although with his guidance.
There's like, what, 8 new players, 8 guys from last year's team that have gone. I mean, so you're talking about, what, a third of the roster is completely new. Do the players, does Brad Ausmus, do they worry about that at all?
No, they all said, as you heard Brad there say, there's no culture change needed here. And I asked Scherzer the same thing. Does there need to be a culture change? He laughed and said, no. We've won for so long here. And I think the big elephant in the room that's moved on and moved to Texas was Prince Fielder. And maybe what he brought down the stretch or didn't bring.
Did
so
you
I
just
think
call
there's
Prince
a lot
Fielder
of
an elephant?
He did. He's a smaller elephant now.
Elephant in the room. I guess I got caught there. No, when you look at, I mean, there's a lot of youth around here. Jose Iglesias is youthful. Nick Castellanos is youthful. Those guys are taking ownership of the positions they have around here as leaders and as starters in this lineup.
Ian Kinsler is sort of maybe the biggest of the new faces in some ways. What he's arrived now, I take it. Is he? What's he had to say?
Yeah, his take was pretty interesting. He said when he knew the offseason was coming, he knew full well he was getting traded. So he put Detroit on the top of his list for AL teams because he knew what kind of contenders they would be. So he said getting here, it's exciting, it's new, and he also got lost in the parking lot on the way here. So he'll work on the plans of getting in, but his vibe from him, he's really, really happy to be here. He came in, as I said, 10 pounds lighter, because he knows he will not have to lose that weight throughout the season. He said there were no games over 90 degrees in Detroit. He doesn't have to worry about sweating too much.
Interesting. All right, Brad, thanks very much for the takes from Lakeland. I know you'll be down there for the next few days until the full team reports, so we'll be following you on Twitter, following you on WXYZ.com, and nice job operating the little Skype cam there.
Look at this, 360, baby.
Where's your tan?
Yeah, you should be working. When you're done with the workouts, like go someplace where you can get some color on your face.
The sun is bright, man. I'm working on it. I'm working too hard.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. We'll check in with you throughout the next couple of days. Something fun. We're going to talk a little bit about high school football. The Prep Kickoff Classic announced their matchups just a couple days ago. Right. So we'll bring in head coach Tim Conley from Southfield, talk a little bit about that. We've got a band. It is the tuba section.
There we go.
From the boys at Southfield High. There they are down in Studio C. Cue them up. We'll talk some high school sports, some high school football with Tim Conley and the Blue Jays cheerleaders. Coming up on the other side of the break right here on the Suburban Ford 7 Sports Cave.
You guys see the band?
There's the band down in Studio C, the Blue Funk tuba section from Southfield High School. And here are the ladies. Let's give it up. There's the Southfield High School. The Southfield High School Blue Jay cheerleaders.
You know, my wife was a member of the Southfield High School cheerleading squad. 1985.
How about that?
Yes.
That's a good tie-in. We didn't even know that. Tim Conley's here, the head coach of Southfield, and we appreciate you taking some time on your Sunday morning, particularly when it's snowing, for you to be with us. We appreciate that. But real exciting. We partnered up with the Prep Kickoff Classic guys, the Detroit Sports Commission, and Southfield's going to be part of that. A really great start to a football season down at Wayne State. And give us your thoughts about the entire event and the fact you get matched up with one of the best teams in the state in Orchard Lake St. Mary's.
Well, football-wise, it's great. You know, it gets our kids focused. And for our school, it's an excellent program also. The location, the amount of exposure for the kids, for our extracurricular activities that we have in the school, it's just really special. So it's been a great event the last 2 years, and I think this year it can even be better.
As you take a look at the schedule, it's a 3-day event. It starts on Thursday, August 28th, and the teams you're going to be very familiar with. West Bloomfield plays Dearborn.
The Lakers.
Temperance, that's right. You're all tied into this event, aren't you?
Yeah.
Temperance Bedford plays Dearborn Forts and Allen Park in Melvindale. Then on Friday, that's the day that you play. It starts with Warren Mott and Detroit Cody, Orchard Lake St. Mary's and Southfield, Detroit Cass Tech and Oak Park. That's going to be a good matchup. You know you got a good coach at Oak Park, and Cass Tech's very good. And then Saturday the 30th, you got Detroit East English Village Prep versus Lansing Sexton. And the Battle of the Brother Rices, Birmingham against Chicago. So just to be a part of that's got to be super cool.
Yeah, you know, for our administration and for our school, everyone comes down and they make a day of it, and it's just a really nice event. The alumni really like it, and we're happy to be part of it. And again, the location's excellent, being right in Wayne State there, so it's not too far away. In the past, the event was at Eastern Michigan, so it didn't work out as well. But you can see we're happy to be a part of it, and a lot of great schools are going to be there. So.
Your school's been in the spotlight recently because of what we followed with Malik. You know Malik McDowell very well. What's been your reaction to him being in the news, this becoming such a big issue, not just in Michigan, but around the country?
Well, it's a lot. You know, the social media, it's like, everyone's so overwhelmed. And I think the kids didn't really know what to expect. You know, all the kids that were involved in getting scholarships, that type of thing. So Malik turned his phone off recently. I think that was the best move that he made, you know, all year. So it's just been a lot. It's been really overwhelming, but we're fortunate too. We had 15 football players sign on signing day, 3 wrestlers and 1 girls basketball player. So that was like a big event for our school, and you know Malik was part of that. And you know he still is working things out, and is going to make a great decision for himself.
Your gut feeling is he's going to still go to state? His parents going to acquiesce?
You know, it's a decision that they're making at home. You know, we can just support Malik and all our student athletes as best we can, because even though they've signed, you know, they still have work to do in the classroom, and so that's, you know, something that's where we're at right now. So
you mentioned the sort of soap opera it became or whatever, but are there issues there that you'd like to see changed as a high school football coach to make this better?
I think we just have to adapt. We're not going to change anything.
Yeah.
You know, the NCAA has different rules and that all the colleges have to follow, but it's still social media is a big part of it, and they can't keep up with it. You can't keep up with the media, so we just have to adapt.
Should they make signing day earlier?
That could help. That could be one change. They could do a early signing day.
Yeah.
So once you sign, then no other schools can recruit you, so that would help a lot.
Good stuff. Tim Conley, the head coach of the Southfield Blue Jays. The Blue Jay cheerleaders in the house. Blue Funk. We're going to wrap up the show with our final thoughts on the other side of the break. The Prep Kickoff Classic from August 28th to August 30th down at Wayne State. Southfield and Orchard Lake St. Mary's, one of the featured games on Friday the 29th. One more segment for you. Rejoin us on the other side of the break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Suburban Ford 7 Sports Cave. Tom Lydon, Mike Stone, John Neal wrapping it up for you this week. And it is time for our final thoughts. And my man Stoney's going to start it off.
All right, Tom. I never thought I would ever call the best coach in college football, Nick Saban, a wimp. But after Wednesday, I just had to. Now, let me explain. Wednesday, the NCAA Football Rules Committee proposed a rule change that will prohibit the offense to snap the ball until 10 seconds or run off the 40-second clock. Proponents of this rule say it will make the game safer for defensive players. Big-time coaches like Nick Saban are major backers of this rule. And if you think they are pushing this for the benefit of safety, you are crazy. It's true, less plays means less chance of injury. But less plays also mean less chance of their defense is getting schooled. Don't kid yourself. The only reason Saban and others want this rule is less headache for them. College football has never been more popular. Teams do different things all over the country. And to slow the pace of the game down is absurd. Hey, Nick, just because Gus Malzahn and Auburn might cause you to lose sleep is no reason to change the game, you wimp.
I think that one gets voted down in about 5 seconds when it ultimately comes up. No way that passes. Chance. John Neal, what's on your mind this week?
Well, we talked about it a little bit. Henrik Zetterberg was sent home with a bad back, and Pavel Datsuk's playing on a gimpy knee, and Daniel Alfredson's as old as Stoney here. Like half the Red Wings roster, they're headed to Russia to play for the native countries in what amounts to their NHL lunch break. I love the Olympics. I know these players do too. And like a lot of fans, I love watching them team up to play on the big ice. But this isn't like the NBA and the summer games. And there's a reason Major League Baseball doesn't take a 3-week break in the middle of the pennant race to go to the Olympics. It just doesn't make any sense. Taking huge risks and selling your product for someone else's profit. So for once, and this might be the only time, I'm with the owners on this one. The NHL needs to give up the Olympic dream. Make it an under-23 tournament, again like soccer. Then focus on a new World Cup starting next year to get the NHL stars together every couple of years in late August or early September, right before the NFL kicks off. Then start your regular season. It's the best of both worlds, really.
Injuries are a concern.
The World Cup was great.
The World Cup was great. That's the thing. You can have it both ways.
We'll see what transpires. Okay, Friday night, I was at the O-Arena in Rochester to see one of the more entertaining basketball games I've ever watched in person. Say what you want about the widespread appeal of Oakland University and the University of Detroit Mercy, but what I saw on Friday during the Grizzlies' 83-82 overtime win was everything I so rarely see just up the road in Auburn Hills. Players called it a war. They talked about the intensity, the pride, the effort, the energy that they felt from the moment that they walked into the gym. I'll take intensity, pride, effort, and energy 10 times out of 10 over the laissez-faire, oh shucks, we lost again, we got to figure out what's going wrong, complacency that we see from the Pistons. I guess I expect more from millionaires who are paid to play the game. I expect some fire. I expect some engagement and ownership of the product. What are you doing to bring the fans back to the Palace? There is a clear disconnect. And if I'm Tom Gores, I tell the guys who take almost $62 million out of my pocket, they better show some more fire, build an identity, give fans a reason to like this team, because right now, not enough people do.
Greg Campy for Pistons coach. There's your solution right there, right?
He'll bring the fire.
That's
He
for
will.
sure. That's for sure.
As always, I appreciate you guys being here, Mike Stone and John Neo. Brad will be back in the host seat. I'm going to slide over there next week.
okay.
Matt Derry will be with us. We encourage your feedback. Always talk to us on Twitter. You can send us emails at 7sportscave@WXYZ.com. Call the fan line at 248-827-4977. But when all said and done, give us your thoughts. Give us your feedback, because that's what's going to drive this show. For John, for Stoney, I'm Tom Lydon. I so appreciate you joining us today. We look forward to seeing you next week. We're going to talk a lot about Michigan and Michigan State. The rematch. Who's going to win?
Spartans.
Spartans. I'm headed to Ann Arbor right now, though.
Wow. They're picking the Spartans on the road next week. We'll talk more about it when you join us on the next edition of the Suburban Ford 7 Sports Cave.